What is up, everybody? This is Terrortop here, bringing you with a mini video, and it has finally happened. The July OCG ban list has finally been dropped for us to look at. Not necessarily for us to compete with, but I do want to talk about this list because there's a lot of things that Konami is intentionally ignoring, and I don't think I agree with the logic as to why they're ignoring it. Like, for example, the reason why Firewall Dragon still isn't banned, because it's a character card. I don't really care about the anime, and neither should Konami in this sense. However, I digress. Let's just jump right into the overall list. So the forbidden cards here, we got Cannon Soldier and Toon Cannon Soldier. Both of these were attached to some FTK in the OCG, based around, I think, ABC's ABC Buster Dragon. And I think if this is becoming a large problem in the OCG, I think dealing with it is fine. I'm not against at all limiting or killing cards that are just not good for the game like this. Same thing with Magical Explosion. I think even if Magical Explosion was not tethered to an OCG list or was being played at all, I still think this card should be banned. Like, I still think Jane Stark should be banned. I still think like a lot of degenerate cards should be banned. I think Royal Magic Library should be banned. This is one of those cards that is not healthy and will never be healthy for the game, especially since that it by itself limit cards design, and it also keeps cards artificially on the ban list that does not need to be on the ban list, even though none of those cards are on this list. So onto the limits. Astrograph, Harmonizing, and Electromite are kind of interesting. I don't necessarily agree with it though. I think Astrograph should definitely be at 0 in all capacities. I was thinking like maybe if they put it at 1, Electromite would have to go to 1, but that's not right because that's kind of the same reason why we put this is why I think Nightingale should have went to 0 instead of Tyrant Neptune, is because putting cards on the list and then putting more cards on the list just to justify that card's existence is unhealthy and wrong. Like, I think cards like Royal Magical Library, they artificially keep cards on the ban list, or Nightingale, like they keep Tyrant Neptune and Bonafide Decker Elma on the ban list because they exist, simply because they exist, is simply wrong. So I think Astrograph should be at 0 and Electromite should be at 3 because Electromite actually has some uses outside of Pendulum Magicians, whereas Astrograph, even if it has applications outside of Pendulum Magicians, it's an overall unhealthy card because it searches everything from everything in the game. It's not a hard once per turn. It's a 2500 beat stick and it's level 7, making Link 7 plays really ridiculous. So getting out of this card out of here is fine. Putting that card to 0 is fine. Electromite is perfectly fine. It's a healthy card to keep certain decks alive. So I'm all for this card being at 3 and not Astrograph being at 1. And Harmonizing is actually kind of interesting, and actually makes a lot of sense, simply because Harmonizing is kind of, in a way, a 1-card Electromite, and also in some way aspects it's kind of breaking the mechanics of Pendulum Magicians, because if you pendulum summon this card from your hand, it's kind of essentially saying, hey, you can pendulum summon from your deck, you can pendulum one monster from your deck, which is really crazy. So on top of that, it's a tuner, and it's level 4, and it's dark, so you can make it like Beals or Void Ogre Dragon if your hand is empty, and you can make Omega, which is already insane. Whether or not we have to put things in. I think Pendulum Magicians in general have a ton of cards on the ban list. I think they have the most cards on the ban list at this current point in time in the OCG. I think they have other than these 3, they have Double Iris, Skull Corbat, and I think Pendulum Call is also at 1. I'm not sure what else is at 1 in the OCG, but these are pretty incredible changes to add to this. I think, like I said, I think Astrograph should be banned and Electromite should be at 3, but it is what it is. Next card on here is Hornet Drones. I think all forms of token generation should not exist at 3 unless they're extremely bad and the card says, hey, you can't use these cards for link summons or anything you can't special summon cards from the extra deck for this turn. Cards like that should not be any more than 3. Like Gofu, I was all for the banning of that card. I was all for the banning of I'm all for the limiting of Scapegoat. I'm all for banning cards that just generate tokens for no good reason and oversimplify the game state. I think if you're going to link summon, it has to be kind of less degenerate than this. However, I think that hitting everyone is clamoring about how they should hit engage and stuff like that. I think that is that is actually wrong, because I think the problem is not engage. I think the problem is the other spells that the deck plays. I'm not talking about the archetype spells. I'm talking about cards like Upstart Goblin and stuff like that. But Hornet Drone, definitely heard that is a problem. So I do agree with this. Set rotation. I believe this card went from 2 to 1. It was semi-limited, and I don't think it was doing much as far as that goes for a minute. And then people started playing spirals again, and then blocking your opponent out of your deck. It's a replacement for terraforming, because they have terraforming at 1, which I totally agree with. Terraforming being at 1, and having searchable free cards that don't set in your spell and trap card zone is stupid. I like the concept of field spells, but I think if they're going to be really stupid and broken, I think the searchers should go away, because I think they shouldn't be searched. Unless they're archetypal spells and you can search them within the archetype, because you could just simply limit them if they become a problem, or you can limit the searchers if they become a problem. But it's neither here nor there. I think set rotation is more busted than terraforming because it locks your opponent out of your field spells. However, this does cause your deck to break a little bit more, because you have to play another field spell on top of that. So, and if you're playing a field spell that you're playing like Gateway to Chaos or is that Oracle Zephyr, where it forces activates, and if you draw that card, you kind of just draw a Garnet. So, in a lot of ways, it's a little more skillful than that. So, but I mean, overall, I think it's fine. So, on to the semi-limits. Elstradal, Construct, and Winda. For those of you who aren't aware, or were not, who don't understand the reasoning as to why Construct is currently banned in the TCG, is because of the cards that it limits card design. And that's fine. Overall, I think Elstradal, Construct, and Winda are not that good of cards at the moment. And only the reason why Elstradal Construct was banned wasn't because of its second effect, where it could run over any special summon monster, but the fact that A, it's a floater, and B, it was a foolish burial for the deck, and C, the deck requirement was super easy. The summon requirement was super easy. Only a Shadow monster and a Light monster, which you could easily play in any deck today. But unlike cards like I think Seraphinite, I think cards like Seraphinite should be 0, because not extra normal summons for free is not good. But this card doesn't grant you anything beyond a Foolish Burial. Sure, you can get stuff like Pharaoh's Tell Snow, but I think for the most part, this card is fine. Spiral Drone, I'm not sure if this card was at 1 in the OCG or if it was at 3. Either way, it's fine. Drone is kind of a degenerate card. You can still... well, no, you can't machine dupe it, but it's whatever. So, Speedboard Terrortop. This one is actually crazy. Speedboard Terrortop is a card that should stay at 1. Because of the fact that how splashable it is. I think if this card went to 2, or 3, Gokus would just play it over Junk Forward. They would not play anything else other than this card, because A, it doesn't use up your normal summon, and B, it searches another card that doesn't also use up your normal summon, and C, it makes great rank 3s, and that is actually insane. I think Terraforming being at 1 is fine right now. Because we have Gokis at full power, and not that they would ever get hit, but having Speedboard Terrortop at 1 or at any more than 1 would kind of just push the deck over the edge. They would not be playing bad cards like Marauding Captain to survive. They would be playing this card, so I think this is fine. Disc Commander, nobody cares. Moving on. Emergency Teleport. We've already tried this. Twice, actually. Originally, back when before Cosmos came out, the card went to 2, and then it went to 3. And then Cosmos dropped, and then immediately went to 2, then it went back to 1. The reason for that is because having a card that generically summons a free link fodder for you now is so overpowered. It's kind of like Scapegoat in a lot of ways, except this card pulls a card from your deck, making your consistency better, and it possibly gives you a card that can stop a card on your opponent's field, in the way of Ghost Ogre, Snow Rabbit. Now, that's not the reason why it should be limited. The reason why it should be limited is because having this reactive card that is a quick play, that is a combo extender in most decks, is not healthy. I think you could play this feasibly in at 2 in Pure Banish. Now, I was experimenting it for a while at 1 in the TCG version, just to summon out a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and then having this card be a spell in the graveyard. So I think this is very viable in Skyscrapers. So, and I think it's dangerous. This card will probably go back to 1 at some point. So, off the list, we're going to go with cards that don't matter. Wind Witch doesn't matter. Mathematician doesn't matter. Heritage is a little interesting, but realistically doesn't matter. Shurit is interesting. Necros isn't doing anything. I think they have Unicorn and Brionac like we do at 1, which is perfectly fine. I think add this card at 3 and those cards stay at 1, that's fine. It checks the deck. I like the fact that Shurit is at 3, because that means the deck is actually viable main deck wise. You don't need Unicorn or Brionac for this card for the deck to kind of function. So I think that the deck is really good. It's fine now. It's not like broken, but it's still fun to play. Card Minimize. I guess since it's not doing anything, people are only playing this in True Draco, it can go to 3. I'm kind of hesitant though. I think at some point this card is going to be busted again, so I think putting it at 1 would be safer. However, it is what it is in the OCG. I think it's fine. So cards that they kind of missed are some of the things that I kind of wanted on that random list. I think I have it on Logio Pro, but I'm not going to put it up. Firewall should definitely be banned. I think keeping cards alive because of the show is actually absolutely wrong. They should focus on the health of the game rather than the popularity of the show. And since Firewall is prime center dead focused in every single FTK that up to this point, since its inception, tells me that this card is going to be a problem here on out if they don't address it. So if they don't address it, we're just going to be seeing FTK after FTK after FTK after FTK. And Firewall Dragon is just artificially, like Independent Nightingale, like every other FTK card that still exists in the game today, is going to artificially ban cards and limit cards because of this card's existence. And I don't think that's fair. You should not put cards on ban cards just to keep other cards alive. And that's kind of my main issue with this whole thing in general. I guess it's whatever. It is what it is. And they did a pretty good job overall on the list. By hitting a prominent FTK at the current point in time, and they did a pretty good job at slowing down a deck and completely killing a deck, and bringing some cards back from the dead, like Shut All Construct. Bringing that deck back is fine. But I think overall, for the most part, if they don't address Firewall, it's going to be a big stopping point, and it's going to be a centerpiece for every single FTK. They didn't bring back the Dark Rollers, thank God. I didn't want to waste my time buying blasters and stuff like that because of a rumor. Monster Reborn going to 2 would have been interesting, but I guess that's fine. Lycros going to 0. I mean, in the TCG, that's the correct hit because because that card's absolutely dumb. But for the most part, I think it's fine that they didn't do that here, because Trickstars aren't doing a thing. I'm not entirely sure what they can do for Brainish. I think they should just leave the deck alone, honestly. It's just leave it as an engine. But then again, I said that about Zodiac, and Zodiac is actually one of the best things that ever happened. So, as far as the game is concerned, so I think it's fine. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. Tell me what you think the OCG missed. Tell me what you think about each individual card in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next video. This has been Lawrence signing out.